equity issue. We've explored a number of topics, examining in depth the many equity barriers affecting our students in schools, and particularly looking at organizations that are striving to help all students succeed. One entity that has not yet been featured in our programs, but is very involved in these issues, is Forsyth Technical Community College. Forsyth Tech is taking some bold and innovative steps toward ensuring that it is a key partner in building more equitable communities. And to learn more about that vision, we are pleased to have as our speaker today, Dr. Janet Spriggs, Forsyth Tech President. A few words about Dr. Spriggs, who became Forsyth Tech's seventh president, as a matter of fact, in January 2019. Prior to joining Forsyth Tech, she served 7 years in various executive leadership roles at Rowan Cabarrus Community College, and for 15 years as an executive leader at Carteret Community College, which gives her a total of more than 24 years, almost 25 years service in the North Carolina Community College system. She's received a number of national awards for excellence for community college presidents, citing her commitment to the vital role that community colleges play as catalysts for equity and workforce and economic development. A native of North Carolina, Dr. Spriggs grew up in Milton, a small town in Caswell County near the Virginia border, and is proud to be a former community college student herself. As a first-generation college student, she often reflects how education literally transformed her life and has fueled her passion for fostering a culture of inclusion and belonging. She has a doctorate in higher education administration from Northeastern University, a master's degree in computer technology from Nova Southeastern University, and a bachelor's degree in computer information systems from Roger Williams University. In addition to her role at Forsyth Tech, she serves on numerous national, statewide, and community boards, including the American Association of Community Colleges Student Success Commission and the North Carolina Teaching Fellows Commission. After her presentation, we will have time for questions and discussion moderated by Dean Clifford, one of our planning team members. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Janet Spriggs to Faith in the City.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Sylvia, thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. One of my very favorite things to do is to talk about Forsyth Tech. So whenever the microphone is available, I take it freely, and I will try to stick to the time limit. If I see you guys walking out, I'll know I've talked too long, but I will definitely leave some time at the end so that you can ask questions. It's a thrill to be with you today. I was talking to Dean and Spence before the meeting started, and Dean said to me that she thinks that maybe Forsyth Tech is one of those diamonds in our community that people just don't know enough about. We are on a mission at Forsyth Tech to make sure that we are no longer the hidden diamond. I totally agree that we are one of the diamonds in our community, but I also really don't want to be hidden. We want to make sure that if we do nothing else, we continue to get the word out about who Forsyth Tech is, what the college is all about, and the work that we're about, because we truly believe that we are that economic driver that this community needs. We're a workforce development driver, and we're also an engine for equity. And so I'm going to talk a little bit. I have a presentation. I'm going to share a little bit about who we are as a college, the work that we do, the strategic vision that we have, some really unique programs that I want to highlight for you that I think you'll all be interested in, and talk a little bit about how, if you'd like to help us in these efforts, we would more than welcome you helping us to do this work. I'm going to start with a quick video. It is me, which means I'm going to try not to cringe while I'm watching myself on video. But rather than just repeat what's in there, I thought versus going through a lot of slides and giving you some demographic information and telling you what locations we have and all those kinds of things, this quick video that we created for our new website that we're about to launch to give prospective students and community members and anybody wanting to know about Forsyth Tech a little bit of information about us is a good way to get started. And then after the video, I'll add some detail. So. Hello, and welcome to Forsyth Tech. We're so glad you're here. I'm N Spriggs, and I'm the president of Forsyth Tech, and it is an honor to be able to welcome you. And of Forsyth Tech, and it is an honor to be able to welcome you and let you know that you're in the best place to chart a course to your career. To help you take your next step, to find your calling and advance your career. Whether it is through our award-winning Learn and Earn apprenticeship program or state-of-the-art aviation program, which is one of only 5 in the state that is connected to the airport. Or maybe you're interested in our cybersecurity programs, which are recognized by the Department of Homeland Security and the National Security Agency as a center of academic excellence. Or you may be visiting to learn about our healthcare program, since we have more than any other community college in North Carolina. Your experience inside and outside the classroom is important to us, and we have services and resources to help you with academic challenges or with life happens challenges. Forsyth Tech cares about you and will be your lifelong partner. Whether you're looking for a class to start a new hobby or to get a start on transferring to a four-year university, whatever you're here for, we're glad you are taking the next steps to becoming a trailblazer with us. So take a look around, explore 9 campuses and our many degree and certificate programs, and start blazing a trail to your tomorrow today. And start blazing a trail to your tomorrow today. Thank you so much. So you heard a little bit in there about trailblazing and trailblazers and starting your tomorrow today. And you got to see photos of our actual facilities, our programs, our faculty. All of those are Forsyth Tech locations and Forsyth Tech students. I love using that video because I think it's a good picture of how robust and diverse our programs and offerings are, but also our population, our students, our staff, and our faculty. And we are the Forsyth Tech Trailblazers. You saw just a glimpse of Blaze. I have some more Blaze pictures in my PowerPoint today. Blaze is our mascot. She's a North Carolina gray fox. And we are so thrilled that she's a part of our community because she's fun. She's the only female mascot of any college or university in the Triad region. Thank you. I knew the ladies would at least clap for that. And we're thrilled to have that distinction. So Forsyth Tech has been around for over 60 years. In September, we'll celebrate our 63rd birthday as the workforce development and economic driver in this community. We opened our doors as the Industrial Education Center back in 1963, if my math is correct. No, I'm sorry, 1960. This is our 63rd year. And since that day, we have focused on whatever the communities that we are serving needs for us to focus on. We started as a career and technical education school. It was all about the trades back then. We didn't have a transfer program. We didn't have basic skills and literacy programs. And then over the decades, we grew and we changed and we turned into the community college that we are today, which is a comprehensive 2-year higher education opportunity for all citizens within our service area, online, from wherever they are, or throughout, to be able to have access to high quality public higher education that can either get them directly into a career with a family sustaining wage, or that will help them transfer to a university and complete their second 2 years of a bachelor's program. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I just wanted to start with that introduction and now lead into sharing with you some information about the impact on an annual basis that Forsyth Tech has in our community. I'm not sure that people understand our footprint. We have 520 or so full-time employees that we employ. We have a student population that totals around 22,000 when you combine the basic skills adult high school students, the continuing education students, and the curriculum students in our programs. And each year, the combined impact of us as an employer, as well as a higher education offer and the work that we do to provide education for students, is around $627 million added back into this community. I like to use this slide when I'm talking to governmental funders, right? Sylvia mentioned I grew up in Milton, North Carolina. There is nothing in Milton except farms. So I obviously grew up on a farm, and I want to make sure that I am helping our funders understand that Forsyth Tech is an asset, not just another pig at the trough, right? Which is the saying from my days on the farm. We're not a liability, and we're not coming to our legislators at the county level or the state level or the federal level asking for funding without having a really good argument for not only the impact we're going to have in our students' lives when they graduate, but also the impact that we're having on the broader perspective of our social and economic structure. So if you can see here, even with my glasses, it's a little hard for me to see, but the economic impact that we have on our community is roughly equivalent to 2 times the economic impact of hosting the Super Bowl in your community. And you get a lot of bang for the Super Bowl, right? So that, just to put it in perspective, the operation, and I'm sorry, that was just the alumni impact. So everyone who has graduated over 63 years, and by and large, our students stay in our communities, the impact they are having on their employment earnings, the taxes, all those kinds of things equals about what it would be if we hosted the Super Bowl 2 times on an annual basis, right? The operations spending impact is $68 million in added income back to our communities, and that is roughly equivalent, depending on the car that you buy, to 2,025 new cars, I believe is what that says there. I'm sorry that I can't read it and I don't have it memorized. And then there's about a $31.5 million annual impact just from our students who are staying here and who are spending money and who are learning how to move into a career that will just increase that impact that they're having. So basically what that means is that for every $1 of taxpayer money, and again, this is a presentation that I tailor towards those folks that are making decisions about how to spend our tax dollars wisely. For every $1 that we spend as taxpayers, $3.90 is what students gain back in lifetime earnings for every dollar. $2.80 is what we get back as taxpayers. And overall, society gets back $9.60 on every $1 of investment in Forsyth Tech. Again, in my opinion, a really good investment, a really good return on investment, and truly an asset for our community. I want to start off by telling you the story of who Forsyth Tech is today. As I mentioned, we have evolved over 63 years because our goal is to be whatever the community needs us to be. In North Carolina, there are 58 community colleges that all started back in the late 50s and 60s. They are not our competitors. We are collaborators and partners in the work across the state. And the reason that there are 58 of us is because the intent was that every North Carolinian would have access to high quality public higher education within 20 to 30 minutes of where they live. And also because we recognize that North Carolina is a very diverse state. And our communities within the state and the regions within the state have different needs, socioeconomic needs, different needs for a workforce. And so we are tailored to be able to meet the needs of our specific communities, but more than that, to be able to change and grow with our communities. Right here in Winston-Salem, we've recreated ourselves many, many times over the past 63 years, correct? I remember as a little girl coming here to go to the tobacco market. I remember as a teenager who was about to graduate from high school coming here for Future Business Leaders of America. And the city was very different back then. We are not the same city that we have been, and the college has worked hard to adapt and evolve with the community to make sure that we're providing what the community needs in the form of workforce development. So the important thing to start with about Forsyth Tech today is that this is our shared vision, what you see on the screen. And it says that Forsyth Technical Community College is a catalyst for equitable economic mobility, empowering lives, and transforming communities. When I came here in January of 2019, and thankfully that was pre-COVID, so I actually got out to become a member of the community before I had to shut in and be stuck inside. We started at Forsyth Tech talking about what our destination was. What is it that the community needs for us to be today? And then building our strategy on how we're going to get there. So the first thing was to develop the vision. In my opinion, you have to know where you're trying to go before you can build a path to get there. So the college worked for about 4 months, excuse me, on this vision statement. And I'm going to grab my water because the pollen is real right now. My apologies. We built together this vision statement because the things that we determined from what the external businesses and community members were telling us is that they were counting on us to be a change agent, to be a catalyst, to be a leader in helping drive economic mobility, but also making sure that we were driving economic mobility for all of our community members. There's a great deal of poverty still in certain pockets, particularly of our city and within the county and within Stokes County, which we also serve. And so we believe, and we know from data and from a lot of experience, that education is one way that we help move people out of poverty and into a situation where we can break the cycle of intergenerational poverty. And so this vision statement became key in building and evolving the college into the next phase. The first part is all about driving more people out of poverty by providing them the opportunity to get the skills they need through higher education to get a career with a family-sustaining wage. The second part, empowering lives and transforming communities, is all about the impact we have on individual lives, helping those students not only focus on the skills they need, but on holistically how they can be better members of our community and how they can help us transform our communities. So once we had built that vision statement, the next thing we needed to do was to build a roadmap to get there. And I'm going to share very briefly the 4 themes from our Vision 2025 strategic plan. We're working to realize the goals and objectives that we set for ourselves that we believe identify when we have reached success in reaching that vision by 2025. And the clock is ticking fast, especially since we had to kind of deal with that little pandemic in the middle of all this work. There are 4 pillars of excellence with our strategic plan. The first is that we will be excellent in learning outcomes, and that's all about the classroom. That is making sure that we hire the best teachers possible and that they are using the most advanced methods possible to engage all students and to help all of our students be successful. The second pillar is equitable access and success. When we opened our doors as that open door access institution back in 1960, it was really important that students could get to us, but it's also important that when they get here, we help them be successful. And sometimes, most of the time, our students are coming to us with a whole lot of barriers. We have a large population of adult students. Our youngest graduate last year was 16. The oldest was 72. We had every age group within that range represented. We had every ethnicity. We had students that were living in poverty. We had homeless students, students who were food insecure, and we had middle-class students and students that chose Forsyth Tech not because that was their only financial option, but because of the quality of what we do there. We have to make sure that we're reaching each and every single one of those students where they are and taking them as far as they can go. So this pillar is very important. Also, completion and transfer. So this ties back to what I just said about it's not enough just to be accessible to students. We have to make sure they're getting through their credentials and their programs to be successfully completing and entering the workforce or moving on to the university and being successful there. And then finally, we're all about what happens when our students graduate. It matters to us that when you leave Forsyth Tech, you are better prepared and you will not be going to a minimum wage job, but rather into a career with a family sustaining wage. And so we're really focused on making sure that our programs match those career opportunities to give that upward mobility to our students and our graduates. So the first thing that I want to share with you in conjunction with that strategic plan about who we are at Forsyth Tech is our focus on inclusive excellence. We are, like every other college, community college, an open door institution, and we know that we have to focus on meeting every student where they are and taking them where they need to be. At Forsyth Tech, we place a little bit greater emphasis on this idea that one way that we focus on meeting students exactly where they are and helping them go as far as they can is by making sure, first of all, that we create a culture of belonging where every student who comes through the door understands and feels from the moment of their first engagement with Forsyth Tech that they are where they belong and that we are happy that they're there. So the framework of inclusive excellence is about making sure that we integrate equity, diversity, accessibility, inclusion, and belonging into everything that we do. Essentially, we have infused this concept of EDAIB. We love acronyms in higher education, but this concept of belonging and inclusivity into our DNA. We're not just trying to bolt on equity strategic plans like a lot of institutions do, but rather we really are making it just intrinsic into everything that we do. And we have to focus on making sure then that we are providing services for students who have barriers for income, students from other marginalized populations, whatever the barrier is, we're building a framework that addresses all of those barriers that our students face, and we're building it into everything we do, whether inside or outside the classroom. The state of North Carolina has recently, and I'm very proud of this work, they have recently adopted our inclusive excellence framework as integral to the work that they are doing for the 58 community college system to build an inclusive excellence framework. So this is really kind of work that's standing out already across the state and even across the nation. And the big purpose around that work is really what you see here, to create a vibrant, action-oriented, engaged institution with the expectation that everyone will contribute towards individual and collective inclusive excellence. In other words, no matter what your job at Forsyth Tech, if you work there, you are bought in and fully focused forward on how you are going to build that inclusive environment for students. We want to stand out as the place where we care about everyone, and no matter where you are, you see that. To just quickly end this discussion about inclusive excellence, I wanted to share this slide with you. It shows the pillars of inclusive excellence. That ties back to our strategic plan. So what I hope you see from that is that at Forsyth Tech, we're really, really purpose-driven. It's all about, we've built this vision, we've built a roadmap on how we're going to get there, and now we're working together to make sure everything we do focuses in on how we're going to get there, including connecting this inclusive excellence work to that bigger strategic plan. So there are 4 inclusive excellence pillars that tie to the strategic plan: access and success, culture, climate, and belonging, which is critically important, institutional transformation, and education and scholarship. Now, that was an example of our focus on equity and our focus on making sure that every student has the ability to come to Forsyth Tech and create a brighter future for themselves. One of the unique programs that we have to help us do that actually reaches back into the middle school age, because the key thing that we believe is that this is a collaborative effort. The work we're doing to help our communities grow and be better and transform. You know, we're about making sure that we are providing equitable economic mobility. We're really about making sure that we're taking a bite out of poverty. And I tell people all the time, I'm not quite crazy enough, Sylvia, maybe Bill thinks I am, but not quite crazy enough to think we can eradicate poverty. But I think if we don't try, we certainly are not going to make a dent in it. And I think if we try and we work focused on doing that, we certainly may be able to achieve that crazy dream, right? So College Lift is a program, and Logan Fallon is in the back here. In case I get any questions later, Logan, I'm so glad you're here. Logan Fallon actually brought this program to fruition as a nonprofit just before I came to Forsyth Tech. He was a 20-something-year-old, 22, 24-year-old. It's up for debate how old he was, but somewhere in those young 20s, when he developed this program as a way to create a college-going culture for students in middle school who, if the data was accurate, were probably not going to go to college, right? They were living in areas of our city where there are high pockets of poverty. They were from minority and disadvantaged populations. Their parents hadn't graduated from college, very low income. Their parents were either unemployed or underemployed. And so he built this partnership around a model that had been created at the University of Southern California. Now, for those of you who don't know, USC is located in Orange County, LA, in a very high poverty area of that city. And this program back in 1990 something, 99 or so, 97, 98, had been built to reach into the middle schools and to supplement the education that students from 6th grade through 12th grade were experiencing, to help them not only succeed and graduate, because the graduation rates in that community were very low, but also to build a pathway for them to college and to create for them an opportunity to get to college. So Logan built this program, and then we started off by being their partner. We offered scholarships for Logan students. And then we decided this is something collectively, Logan and I, if we could bring this to Forsyth Tech, we could take advantage of all the opportunities that the larger institution and the community college could bring to bear to really make this something monumental. I think it works better, quite frankly, at a community college than it does at USC, but USC has seen significant, phenomenal success. The director for this program now at USC is a graduate from that program, and her family, she came from that same family, low income. Her parents didn't graduate. Her future was very limited before she entered this program. So essentially how this works is that we provide additional instruction for the students who are enrolled in this program starting in 6th grade. And our students, right now we have a partnership with the school system for Mineral Springs Middle, and is there another middle school, Logan? Okay, so we've expanded that, but we started with Mineral Springs, and the students apply for the program. Their parents agree to be a part of this and to support them. They come every single Saturday throughout the academic year to Forsyth Tech, and we provide additional instruction from 7:30 to 1 o'clock. Now, we do other things. We give them food. We let them have a little bit of fun, right? Because it is Saturday, and they are 6th graders through 12th graders. And essentially, they're getting that extra support they need academically during that time. But we also bring their parents in, and a couple of times a month, we're helping the parents understand how to support their students to success, but we're also now adding in classes for the parents. So these are people that are unemployed or underemployed, and we're helping give them skills to get better jobs and better careers. And we're really excited about that work. We also provide after-school tutoring and personalized support, again, wrapping our arms around these students who statistics show would fail, not graduate from high school, not go on to college if we didn't do this work. And we're doing it for those 7 years. And then there is a caveat at the end that I'll tell you about. We also provide summer programming for them to keep them active and engaged during the summer, counseling and emotional support for the students. And at the end, when they graduate, when they're in 12th grade, we are working with, let me go backwards, the partners that you see here, Forsyth Tech, Carolina University, Winston-Salem State University, Salem College. We're working to add A&T and UNCG, hopefully very soon. Those students, when they graduate high school, get a scholarship to go to college for free. Also, thanks to our Career and College Promise dual enroll program, when they hit 9th grade, they can take classes at the college that give them dual credit. So they're getting a jump on their college credit while they're in high school. And again, these are students who are coming from the areas of our city where we believe Forsyth Tech is most needed, those pockets of poverty and places where students are really living in an environment that is not conducive to helping them move to college. Forsyth Tech Cares, one other program that I want to highlight. Let me make sure I'm keeping track of time. Forsyth Tech Cares is an award-winning program that we stood up right as COVID was hitting. So March 13th, 2020 is one of those days I'll never forget. That was when we got the call from the governor's office that we were closing, right? We were closing our physical campus, but we were not going to close our work and our service to our students. But we had so many students who are low income. You know, the COVID pandemic was not an equal opportunity pandemic. I thankfully had a situation where I could stay home. It was just my husband and I. We didn't kill each other. We're still here. Our kids were grown up. I didn't have to worry about getting kids through school in this pandemic. I could work from home well because I had all the technology and all the resources that I need to do that. So many of our students did not have that luxury. We tried to take things online, but they only had their phones and they didn't have big data plans and they couldn't access the materials online that they needed. They didn't have support systems at home. When we first went online, I heard from so many faculty who were trying to teach students and they wanted them to turn their cameras on so that they could engage. And they quickly realized that they didn't want to turn their cameras on because they didn't want us to see where they were. And some of them were homeless and in really bad situations. So Forsyth Tech Cares, we had this idea and we were working on trying to find funding for it. State dollars can't pay for the kinds of things that Forsyth Tech Cares pays for. When the call came that this pandemic is real and we're shutting down and you've got to adapt, a lot of our students work in retail and other situations where they had also lost their jobs during this time. So Forsyth Tech Cares became a way that we could initially wrap around while they were absent from campus and stay in touch with them and see what they needed. We provided hotspots so they could access the internet. We gave them loaner laptops and Chromebooks. We opened up our parking lot for them to come in and sit in their cars if they had cars to access the Wi-Fi. We provided food because they were hungry. We worked out a partnership with Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. So the students who were being fed at the school system, our students got to go and get those lunches as well, thanks to our foundation. We did whatever was needed to be able to meet the Life Happens kinds of needs that our students have. And we continued that. We got the grant funding that we were looking for shortly thereafter. And now we're in our 3rd year of continuing to expand this program. We can't be the social services organization that all our students need, but what we can do is connect to the partners in our communities that provide the services that our students need. So we have a partnership with Wake Forest that allows our students to get legal support for free. We have partnerships with the Second Harvest Food Bank to provide 7 food pantries on 7 of our 10 campuses. We have partnerships all over the community, and we're continuing to build more of those. These are just a few that you see on the screen now of the partnerships that we've been able to build through Forsyth Tech Cares, a network of resources for our students to be able to help them through the barriers that are threatening to keep them from staying in school. There's a saying in community colleges that our students are one flat tire away from all their dreams going up in smoke. And that is so very true. We literally have students who it's a struggle for them, even after we get them Pell funding from the federal government to cover the cost of tuition, and we help them with books. If you think about it, if you are a single working mother with children and your budget is stretched to the max already, and you have to choose from between buying gas to get to school or buying medicine for your baby, every single time you're going to buy the medicine for the baby. And so many times that's a true story that I've heard from our students. They've made the right choice, but in doing so, they've also stopped their forward mobility. So we're very happy with that. These are a list of our campuses and the food pantries where we have availability for our students to get food. And then also the last program that I want to highlight is another one focused around equity. We've got a lot of programs at Forsyth Tech. We have a Sugar Women's Center that provides support for single women and for women who might find themselves in abusive situations. We have a clothes closet and a children's clothes closet for babies for those females. We have a veterans center to support our veteran students. We also have the James Russo Minority Male Success Initiative, which is funded in part by state dollars. And I think it's at 21 community colleges out of the 58. Every year, they have some money left over from colleges that have not spent all of their award money. And they call Forsyth Tech to say, here, to have this money, because we're going to spend every single bit of it. And we're going to spend it helping make sure that we are engaging our minority male students in ways that will keep them moving forward and address the places where they need us to support them to be able to keep them moving forward. Our African-American male population in particular is not completing at the levels that other students are, and that we are expecting them and going to make sure that they complete at. We have gaps, in other words, right? If we look at completion, our gaps in the completion by populations help us understand where we need to be focusing more impactfully with the services that we're offering. And this is one of the areas. So we have a whole plethora of kinds of programs that we offer specifically geared towards keeping our minority male students engaged. And we've seen quite a bit of success. When I came in 2019, our overall completion was 19%. Over 3 years, which means that in 3 years, only 19% of our students were actually able to complete. That sounds awful. It was close to the nation, right? It was below the national average, but not very far from it. Because again, most of our students have significant barriers. And what we realized in building our strategic plan is no matter how good we are at teaching in the classroom, if we can't help them get past these barriers, that completion rate's going to stay at 19% over 3 years. When we look 4 years and 6 years out, the completion rate is better. But remember, it's supposed to be a 2-year program. And the faster we can get students through the program, the faster they can get to their future. So we worked really hard, and now we are at 31% in 4 years or 3 years, because that was last year's number. We know that's going to decline because of COVID, because we lost some enrollment. However, we also now are well ahead of where we were in 2019 with enrollment. So we've got our students back. The things that we're doing seem to be working and working in great ways. But the really amazing thing about those completion numbers is that we lowered, when at 19% was overall, white students were completing at 23%. African-American students were completing at 6% when I came. We have moved that number 15 percentage points for African-American students, and our Hispanic students now complete at higher levels than the white students. So these efforts are making a difference. We have evidence. It's not just what we think, but rather what we are seeing. One more thing that I'll share, and then I'd love to answer your questions, and I think I'm pretty good on time. We are focusing this year on really stepping out and taking a leadership role as a community convener. We believe that Forsyth Tech and the community college is the perfect hub for bringing partners together to talk about how we can truly solve the problems that are helping or keeping people in poverty and keeping the rise of gun violence moving, keeping that rising. We believe that education is key. It's not everything, but it's critical. And we also believe that if we can get the right people around the right table to not just plan and talk, but rather to strategically plan and then strategically do and have action steps around it, we can reach more people We can provide more opportunities to mentor and educate and solve collectively the problems that we see within our communities. And we want to step out and say that we're willing to stand up and say, we're going to lead that work. It's part of our vision. It ties directly into the work that we're doing for our strategic plan. And we're really excited about how we can pull people together and link and leverage all the assets of our community to really make this a better place for all of us. This is a great place. I love Winston-Salem. It's kind of like my small town girl heart in a big city, right? So I've got everything, all the conveniences of a big city, but at the heart, we're a very small town and we really do care about each other. And this is a way that we can, I think, come together to really make it an even better and greater place to live. I have one more video and then we'll head to some questions. This is our latest short clip that just shows our real students, our real campus, and really a little bit more for you to kind of get a visual of who we are at Forsyth Tech. So let me play that quickly. Oh, sorry. Now it's really going to play.
My schedule is this big. Next year, country, sometime. All the things we want to accomplish, but never seem to get to. Johnson. And for some effect, when you need to let people make decisions yourself, to really what you want to do, to try a course, not just do a job, but do a career. If you don't know all this easy, if you pull it and stretch, and at times make clear it's a little bit. But do it alone, we believe it to help and guide you along the way. Forsyth Tech is a catalyst for equitable economic growth, empowering life, actually for the communities. Here, promises made. Become promises kept. Who do you want to be? Find a way at a place of purpose.
So I really love that new clip because our tagline is a place of promise, but it's so much more than just a marketing tagline. Our students come to us sometimes when they are at their lowest point, and we help them find a future that is much different from what they ever could have imagined. I tell our advisors all the time, when you're meeting with students and you're trying to help them build a pathway to their dream, the first thing you have to do is help them understand how to dream bigger, because they're very narrowly focused. I grew up on that tobacco farm in Milton as a very studious young girl. I read all the time and I loved school, much to my brother's dismay. He never could figure out why I was so excited about school. I loved learning and going to school. My parents had never graduated high school at the time. And while I'm so grateful that they taught me the value of hard work and faith and family and unconditional love. But at the same time, I wanted more. I just didn't know exactly what that looked like or how to even envision what that could be. I was very blessed to have people in my life that helped me find a pathway forward and helped me learn to dream big and not to be afraid to create a future in my mind that was much different from what I had always seen. Education is what turned that dream into reality for me. So I started back at that tobacco farm, and now today I'm a community college president. It's the greatest blessing in my life to be able to work with people, students every day, to help them create that pathway to whatever their biggest, brightest future can be. I want to thank you for allowing me to come here to tell you a little bit about Forsyth Tech. We are an important part of this community, and I'd love to answer any questions that you might have that I can expand on anything or talk about something completely different. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel a little bit breathless with all that I've heard. So I wonder what kind of questions are emerging for you today. We could go a lot of places.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. That's
And
a
for the
good
sake of
question.
the people on Zoom, again, the question has to do with funding and knowing that we're underfunded sometimes at K-12. How are you doing at the community college level?
Such a great question. So a few weeks ago, we hosted, along with Greater Winston-Salem Inc., the legislative breakfast for all of our state, local, and federal legislators. And I had the opportunity to speak a few words for them. And I said to all the legislators there, we are so grateful for all the support because they really do support us. However, I said, it's not enough and we're going to ask for more, right? We have right now in front of the state legislatures as a system, the 58 colleges, an ask for a $232 million increase in our overall budget. And the reason we have that is because with the funding that we're getting, as generous as it is, and we're very grateful, and we are funded at a level that's in some ways much better than many states, we are still, we pay our faculty 41st in the nation out of 50 states, the level that we're able to pay our faculty. In the Southeast, there's only one state, Georgia, that pays their faculty lower than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're significantly behind where the other states are. So we have got to be able to pay faculty. The Great Resignation is so real, and it hurt us badly because a lot of our faculty are teaching those highly skilled jobs where they were getting offers that I couldn't even begin to match to come back and work in industry.
Mm-hmm.
So we lost a lot of highly qualified faculty. We also need more money for those things outside of the classroom. So a portion of that $232 million is also to help us do more advising and wraparound support services, counseling for our students and things like that. So we get funded well, but still not enough. And in comparison, we are about at 58% of the level of funding that the universities get. Even though we have more students that are going to stay in the state when they graduate and continue to be a part of our state's economy. So, and we also get funding from the county. And I will say that Forsyth County has been very good to the college. I've worked at 2 other colleges, and the 3 other counties that we supported did not have quite as high levels of funding as our county does. So very grateful for the county funding.
Could I just tag team to that for a minute? You spoke a good bit about the LIFT program, which sounds fascinating for
Yeah.
students from 6th to 12th grade. How is it funded? How does it fit in that pattern? And how do you identify your students? Maybe how does it differ from the Crosby Scholars that we've
Yeah.
heard about?
Good question. So Crosby Scholars, to take that one first, is, and Logan, if I say something wrong, please don't hesitate to tell me, okay? Because Logan's the expert. I hate answering his questions. The Crosby Scholars program is not focused as academically in the classroom, right? We're providing actual additional instruction. Crosby is working to make sure that they're helping students be prepared for getting into college, right? We're making sure they're going to graduate high school and academically be prepared. So it's a little different. And Crosby's one of our greatest partners. We actually, every one of our students is also a Crosby Scholar.
Okay.
So it's a very, very good partnership, but the differences are pretty significant in that our focus is on that academic piece much more strongly. The other part of your question was
The funding.
Oh, I'm sorry, the funding. So it was all fully funded nonprofit when Logan created the Piedmont Renewal Network that then became College Lift at Forsyth Tech. When we brought it in, we brought in the assets from the nonprofit. We also have our foundation. So a big part of our funding outside of public dollars is through our Forsyth Tech Foundation. Bill Green, who's affectionately at the school called Dollar Bill, because he gives away so much money, is the chief officer and executive director for our foundation. And that's a huge part of helping us fund things that public dollars won't fund. College Lift, there are some expenses that that Bill and Foundation support for us through donations. And then when students are in class and matriculating, that is legitimate. So it's a combination of legitimate state expenses as well as private money.
And maybe that's a way you can involve these people. How can they participate in or support your foundation?
Oh, absolutely. So the Trailblazer annual report is at the back, and there's a card in there that tells you all about how to donate. We do depend very heavily on our Forsyth Tech Foundation because the state has been funding us the same way now as they've funded us for 63 years, and it no longer works. They're funding us, for example, on a model that pays us for butts and seats. Basically, you have to have a lot of those kids sitting in, or students sitting in seats to make up what they call a full-time equivalent before you get money for the full-time equivalent. We serve a tremendous amount of part-time students, so it takes a whole lot of part-time hours to get to that equivalent, and more since COVID. So, and also the state limits us. We can't, for example, buy food for the students on Saturday, even though we know that many of them depend on that food on Saturday from us. So we have to depend on the foundation. So we very wisely and we make use of our money through the foundation with our students' success and equity of success at heart. And we do our best job to make sure that that investment is returned. And yes, we'd appreciate any support in that area. Thank you, Dean.
Okay, we have a question from Zoom.
Yes, so about the College Lift Initiative, how many students and families are involved with that?
Great question.
How
Right.
many students and families in Lyft?
Great question. Yes, we've already expanded. Logan just reminded me we're expanding this fall. We started so many years ago that now we have 6th grade all the way through 11th grade. Is that right, Logan? And every year we've added more students. In total, how many do we have?
250.
And that's roughly not quite 250 families, because I do know of at least a couple of parents that have 2 students or more in the program, but it's roughly correlated to the number of families.
Is it pretty equitably distributed across those years of education? Can they come in later, in other words, or do they all start at 6?
Start at 6, under some circumstances, they can start at 7 or 8.
Okay.
Particularly if they're dependent on
Okay. Other questions? Yes.
I refuse to believe that that's real and not a rumor.
friends are really in that news story.
Yeah.
That is interesting for you about the value of all the
That's right. Mm-hmm. Mm. Uh-huh. Mm. College. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, for the sake of Zoom, let me try to capture what you said. So thinking in terms of the big issue of student debt, how do you see that affecting community colleges in the future? How do your students compare with
Yeah.
others in terms of the debt they leave with?
Good question. So we do have this, we offer currently the student loan program, but we try our best to convince our students they don't need to go into debt, because they don't. Our credit hour cost is $76 per credit hour, compared to well over $300 or something around, I can't remember what the universities are, but much, much higher. It's that sounds very reasonable, and it is. It's very affordable. But if you're homeless or you're, living in poverty, you still need help. But the Pell Grant, which is available for those low-income students, is not to be paid back, right? If you qualify on income. We also have a plethora of scholarships through our foundation and through other awarding entities. So there's no reason why most students ever have to think about debt to come to Forsyth Tech and complete at Forsyth Tech. We also, for the past 2 years, have been able to give free tuition and books and fees to all students because of all the federal money. That's running out. However, we are very optimistic that we're going to be able to figure out a way to continue that for this next year in particular, and then are looking to be able to continue it even further. So to answer your question about, we are definitely, I think, coming to our own, right? We've got momentum as community colleges because that conversation at the national level about the value and the return on investment for higher ed has helped us with in some ways. I really do hope that community never comes out of the name because it's so vitally important to who we are, right? We're very different at Forsyth Tech than we were at Rowan Cabarrus or the Carteret because we are unique to this community and meeting the needs of this community in a unique way. So I hope that never changes. What I hope is that we can change the perception from being the last resort for students to being the first choice and the best choice for all students. And that's really what our marketing focus is. We have about 52% of our students are in a college transfer track right now, and the other are in career and technical education 2-year programs. So it's still about an even mix. And we're just trying to tell the story differently to help more people not feel, like they're missing out by coming to Forsyth Tech.
We're about out of time. I do have one last little question, which is your apprenticeships. Do you have a number of apprenticeship programs now?
We sure do. I don't know the exact number because Daniel Rose, who runs those programs for us, every time I use a number, it's out of date, like the next day. We have well over 40 employer partners who are participating, and we have apprenticeships in everything from accounting to advanced manufacturing to MRI, which is obviously in the healthcare field, a critical need. We're working on nursing. We're working on almost every program that we have, trying to build either a apprenticeship opportunity or a work-based learning internship type of program.
Okay. Diane, you have an announcement to make. Is that right?
Thank you.
We're really grateful for this compelling and informative presentation and for all that you're doing. As another member of the planning team, it's my happy task to invite you back for April. Please mark your calendars for April 11th. Usually we convene on the first Tuesday of the month. We're going to push it to the second Tuesday to avoid our school system's spring break. And after almost 5 years of convening monthly conversations about educational equity, you may have noticed in a church, we're going to ask the question why. We're convening a panel of congregational leaders who also are committed to lobbying in Raleigh, serving on school boards, and leading in communities to ask why educational equity is a compelling concern for persons and communities of faith. So come back in April, and thank you very much for being here today. And please let's thank Dr. Spriggs one more time.
Don't forget to pick up the annual reports in the back. Lots of good information there that you heard about.